Warm welcome to the entire community here. As you guys know, we've been running this for, 6, 7 years now, and it has become a real community of people coming in, sharing their best practices. You're going to hear from Jack at BCG, Masonia from AWS, Stuart from MongoDB, and Andy from Wipro. These are leaders, practitioners sharing with you peers in this session. I will kick this off, and it's really the moment in the ecosystem world today. Uh, Ecosystems are actually out there in action right now in a much better way than the previous decade. So let me dovetail into what I'm seeing from our vantage point. Number one, this is recognizing the economic climate that we are in. This is about profitable and efficient growth. And boy, it couldn't come on a right time. So if you think about the efficient growth mindset, um, what we are seeing is that there's capital and investment scarcity that's driving the fact that companies can co-innovate. People can focus on their core, but for accelerated customer needs and demands, they can actually partner much better. Co-innovation costs are lower than do it your own. Same thing we're seeing in marketing. If you think about defraying marketing costs in this environment, co-marketing is the best way to actually reduce your expenses in half and literally amplify twice the audience. And if you look at sales productivity, I talked to many CROs in conjunction with their ecosystem strategy and their partnering strategy. And co-selling, for example, has emerged as the under-recognized but a growth lever that has delivered. So if you see keynotes after keynotes, whether it's at key conferences, we see the partner contribution in terms of actual pipeline rise much faster than internal pipelines, for example. And even on the internal pipeline, the influence that partners are actually bringing in to close the deals faster and at a larger amount is phenomenal. So if you look at all these operational efficiency metrics and the productivity metrics and the revenue metrics that comes in because you have a faster time to market with co-innovation, lower cost of marketing to get to the same audience because you're often sharing audiences, and lastly, in terms of selling, the sales productivity numbers with ecosystems and without ecosystems, there's night and day. So profitable, efficient growth, decade of ecosystems. The other big lever, as we are seeing, despite being in this economic climate, what we are seeing is the speed of change has not abated at all. In fact, it has become hyper fast. If you see what's happening with Gen AI, the tech stack has become deeper, and no company in themselves can really specialize at that layer. So you can't replace what an NVIDIA does, for example, unless you are, you have massive capital, for example, and massive time. You can't do what OpenAI and other companies in the AI space are doing at the speed at which they're doing it. So partnering is the only viable strategy here, right? So as the speed of innovation changes and the tech stack gets deeper and deeper, like we are seeing, the specialization becomes very important, and hence partnering becomes even more critical. So in the next decade, of all the applications that are coming out on the basis of these deep tech, whether it's embedding AI into our applications, it's completely changing into more of a co-innovation, co-sell world as opposed to do it yourself. And lastly, in response to this, there's this efficient need, there's this open opportunity with hyper innovation. What's the modern tech stack for partnering? I think this combination is working out. You have your CRM, you have tools like WorkSpan, and then you have marketplaces. And the idea here is, all the way from co-innovating and putting these listings in. I'll talk a little bit about that, doing co-sell automation, and then using the modern cloud marketplaces to transact. You have the full life cycle of a modern buying process, a modern process that actually, instead of being optimized at your company level, it's optimized at the ecosystem level, simplifying the buying process for the partner. So I think these three big trends is really what's shaping this decade of the ecosystem that we are seeing here. So warm welcome. That's my opening. And in contrast with what used to happen, if you think about how partnering teams were organized before, you have the company at the center of the universe. You had a team that's just looking at services partners, let's say, and optimizing that, bi-directional one-way partnership, however formats you have organized this in. You have separate, hyperscaler relationships, you have tech partnerships to fill the innovation gaps you may have. But it's centered and organized around company, and you may optimize one with tool one, you may optimize other with spreadsheets. You You have all sorts of traditional partnering mechanisms that's going on. These are all one-off, and they're primarily organized around how can my company make more money, right? And off them or with them, right? But I think where we are headed, and this interdependency is really key, and some really amazing work from BCG in their thought leadership. I've mentioned the paper here, and I encourage, we'll post this link as well as we talk. This is really about the customer in the center. It's not about the company in the center. And this is the ecosystem focus that, and I really like what Masonia mentioned at AWS, that it's really the community at the end of the day, because the customer is included in the larger ecosystem that we are going after. And this includes hyperscaler partners. It includes tech partners, ISV partners, service partners. So it's a community of these partners that are coming together to influence, and serve this end customer. These customers demanding wants innovation at an unsatiable pace, and at a lower cost and lower risk, and people better align around this ecosystem strategy. So this is the world that we are headed towards, where because of the speed of change, we will be building with each other. So better build a muscle for co-innovation and put that innovation in a marketplace, for example, where people can actually discover these listings. They can find what's new out there. And borrowing the Amazon analogy, right? This is the endless aisle. And the reason why it's endless is that you can build and package a solution even meant for 100 customers. Because if you reach those 100 customers profitably, you can make that process repeatable, that sales process repeatable. And of course, it works brilliantly for the software that scales to tens and thousands of companies. And now you have this process on the innovation side. Companies need to figure out how their sales teams work, across company boundaries in a more seamless way. It's no longer my deal and your deal. It's basically co-selling together. And our whole language and our whole measurement methodology as a result is going to change. We're going to talk about this in a second. But how do you align two companies to sell together? And then it's not just about selling, it's about consumption, because we live in a cloud world. And how quickly can we deploy with predictability, with consumption being the key piece, but also the ease of transactions, the frictionless process that's introduced. And I think as an ecosystem strategy, compare and contrast this. This is far more dynamic, far more innovative, far more speed of transactions in frictionless in driving that. So if your company is orchestrating and moving in this direction, I think one of the key things that it needs is a chief partner officer. Because if we look at the larger landscape, it's not about optimizing any one of these routes to market. It's about optimizing all routes to market focused on the end customer. And Jack has, of course, talked a lot about this at BCG. Greg Sarafin at EY, for example, thinks about this as value optimization for the end customer market that you're going after. Are you orchestrating, a service that actually solves a specific customer problem, and in that organization, you are orchestrating a network? And companies that don't take this, they will get further behind in the value chain and reduce their margins overall. So the rise of the chief partner officer, and we share this with partnership leaders, Asher Matthews and team here, to really lift the team and the profession up, to be more accountable, more visible, more, having the right mandate as a company. And when you have the right mandate as a company, the research shows that, especially from EY, it shows that you have 2.1x more revenue than companies that are not ecosystem organized. And at the same time, you have 1.5x lower costs. So you're competing against a 4x differential. If a competitor of yours has an ecosystem strategy, for example, we'll talk MongoDB, they're growing at 5x with with AWS. Same thing with Wipro. Andy will talk about this. The growth rates are faster because they have an ecosystem strategy. And if you don't, likely going to be left behind. So I think the rise of the chief partner officer as a role, as an empowered function in the company to hold the team, hold the budget, deliver on business growth, is the next decade that we are seeing. This will happen. And there are already great exemplars in the industry. So from Carl Farbach at SAP to Greg Sarafin to Jack, who's going to come in and talk about this, to to leaders across, companies like Cisco, AWS, Microsoft. We see this, and even in younger companies, we see next to the hiring of the head of sales, we see the hiring of the ecosystem team. Now, if you look at the overall customer in the center, what's really interesting about this center is that this center and how it buys is changing. And we are watching this change in front of our eyes. We saw this as individual consumers when Amazon came along and all of us got Amazon Prime memberships and started buying, and that became the new way to buy things, right? And we have this millennial buyer now in already in the house in terms of line of business buying, and in the next 10 years you get every single business function procuring from the marketplace. And the reason is very, very simple. It's a faster discovery of solutions, more innovative ones, earlier discovery, quick try, buy by the SIP and stuff like that, that eases the friction in actually buying processes. And also, if you think about, closing transactions towards the end of the quarter, there's a lot of friction that gets eliminated. So I think there is this new point of sale that has emerged with marketplaces, and it's much more aligned to the center persona in our ecosystem, which is the customer. Customer is king. This buying behavior has changed. So we as companies in the B2B space need to adapt. And I think marketplaces offer that solution. AWS and even Microsoft and Google and SAP and Cisco, they're all headed in the marketplace direction in a very, very aggressive way. And as a result, this lower friction process, let's look at our ecosystems and how it's organized, how we organize our stack, how do we retool our companies to take advantage of this thing. With that in mind, WorkSpan stepped up earlier last year, actually, and looked at our overall ecosystem offering and created a unique offering that added marketplace accelerator into it. And we call this end-to-end offering the WorkSpan Hyperscaler Edition. So what it takes is the already established WorkSpan capabilities like partner planning and doing joint business goals and metrics, but then adds the ability to do additional things, such as ability to manage marketplace listings. So you can now list new offerings on marketplace with our help. We streamline that process completely. Co-sell automation was already there. We just as marketing automation and sales automation before, now we have co-sell automation where we connect to your CRM on the left-hand side, but also to the hyperscaler co-sell, interfaces, whether it's AWS ACE, Microsoft Partner Center, Google Partner Advantage. We have that co-sell process already connected. And now imagine from the comfort of your own CRM, thanks to amazing APIs made available, we have the ability to actually transact that offer on the marketplace as well. So this is private offer transactions, and this takes the end-to-end co-innovation, co-sell, and transactions lifecycle in one full swoop. So very, very powerful new stack has emerged, and we're pretty excited about this. And what are some results that we are seeing? This is an example from AWS with a sample customer. What we see is before automation, it's manual and far below the potential of the company because one or two people are doing it. But the moment you get automation connection from CRM, boom, the initial partner originated referrals go up, right? And with those referrals going up, and automatic updates happening from CRM, it starts to create a reputation with these hyperscalers on which deals you're actually influencing and closing, and that creates the mind share. And that mind share actually starts to lift the hyperscaler originated, or in the case of AWS, in this case, AOs into the picture. So now you have AOs coming in, and AOs are actually gravitating towards a very nice ratio where there's balance between partner originated and AWS originated ones. So this is very, very powerful, and this is the need. Like I often hear companies say, "Hey, we are not at the volume at which we need this automation." My case to you guys is get the automation, you get volume because of it. It's not because you get the volume and then you need the automation. So this is a very interesting thing because we're living in a dynamic ecosystem with the gives and gets. the automation actually enables the scale as opposed to scale needing automation, which is a very interesting thought process. And as a result of this automation and this impact, there is rigor coming into the ecosystem teams. The chief partner officers are able to now stand before their boards and talk in actual numbers. Instead of being squishy influence metrics and partnering, the language has completely changed. We're talking about inbound referrals and improvement in win rates. So how much the pipeline grew because of these inbound sourced referrals. And on the outbound one, we are talking about win rates because we brought in the partner influence, or the deal size expansions because we brought the partner influence. So very quantified. And because we've been working with business teams, earlier our team worked with AWS to create a revenue planning worksheet. And this revenue planning worksheet is very powerful. So if you're discussing your next year's cloud strategy, you're becoming cloud sales ready, if you will, with the strategy we talked about around listings, co-sell, and private offers. The idea is very simple. You need to know where you're going and how do you measure your success along the way, right? So WorkSpan has created a very nice planning worksheet here. The QR code is up there. Have this discussion with your sales team. Have this discussion with your partner development manager. Put in the business assumptions in terms of inbound and outbound. Put in your assumptions in terms of deal size, and you will see the revenue planning and the growth that you do in a very automated way. And I think this will be very, very powerful for you guys to download and use it for your next year planning, and even strategic collaboration agreements and things like that. As you approach the joint business together, let's get data driven. Let's have the intellectual rigor of partnering that we can then act and talk credibly in front of other lines of business, especially sales and product teams that are making these joint co-innovation investments, that they can justify those investments, and the sales process actually helps you grow revenue in a predictable way. So with that, there are already some companies that are doing this is in a great way. We wanted to recognize companies that are doing it, and especially individuals and partnerships that are doing this really well today. So we're creating a new Oscar Awards of our own. We call this Co-Stars of Co-Sell. The reason why it's co-stars is because it's got two sides to it. It's you and your partner, so it's always together. And co-sell is the business process that we're automating here. So 2024 nominees, very excited to say, and these nominees are on the basis of their economic performance, their performance with regard to actually growing a partnership from level A to level B. And very excited to call out these nominees: Nasuni, PagerDuty, Genesis, DeepWatch, Seek, and MongoDB. Over the next couple of months, what we're going to do is bring out the joint partnership. How did they do the partnership? How did they do the revenue plan? What kinds of results did they achieve? And what were the strategies that went behind in actually getting these results achieved? And we'll take both perspectives, actually. I'm very excited about this series because it will give you the partner perspective on both sides. Unlike a case study, which is usually one-sided, this will talk about the interdependent case study here. So awesome.